Okay, we're now recording our webinar. Thank you all for joining us today for our December webinar. Before I introduce our speaker, I will just say a quick thank you to our sponsors for the webinar series. First of all, the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Montana Department of Commerce and our Montana Small Business Development Centers, who have been integral partner in identifying our speakers and helping to market the webinar series. Also want to recognize MEDA, the Montana Economic Developers Association, as well as Montana State University Extension, who I work with, our community development program, with additional support by the Great Falls, Montana Development Authority. If any of you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the question pod there. You can type your questions in throughout the presentation, and then Anya will be talking a little bit about the format for the end of the presentation, and we'll grant you all access with your microphones, and you can actually share some of your stories at the end of the presentation. So we'll, if your microphones are working and you know how to use them on your computers, you can go ahead and ask questions or respond to Anya when she gives you some instructions. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce today's webinar speaker, Anya Peterson-Fry. She is the director of the Small Business Development Center in Bozeman, and she will be talking about developing your story, a foundation for funding. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anya. Anya, thanks for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate being here. If there are any sound issues, let me know. But I'm looking forward to chatting with all of you, albeit virtually. The first slide I've put up here is just to share where our various locations are for small business development centers. So perhaps there's one near you or in your region that you would like to access. There are 9 centers around the state, as well as our state office. Jason, one of our partners, is with Great Falls Economic Development Authority, and I am with Montana State University Small Business Development Center down here in Bozeman. So just want to let you be aware of where we all are. Now, Paul is also going to be posting this in addition to the recording as a PDF PowerPoint, and that is because I have included some links in the presentation, but in this format, it doesn't really work to like open up a link or a YouTube video. So I have them there so you can access them later, and I think you might find some of them helpful. The other thing I'd like to do as we get to the very end is if some of you have your 30, 45-second kind of stories of who you are that you would like to share with us and get some feedback from those who are here, that would be terrific. So let's get started. Now, I've presented this in other ways, and I'm not going to claim you're going to get some brand new news you've never heard before, but I'm hoping it's going to make you think a little differently about how you share your business and how you develop the story, whether you take that story for marketing purposes or for funding purposes. It's really about who am I or who is my company, and how do I share with people what that is. So this is your foundation. First, I want to kind of move into the notion of story. And story is a little bit of a buzzword today, especially in marketing and content marketing, and we want to tweak it just a little bit. And I like how Mark Twain noted that a story is a tale that shall accomplish something and arrive somewhere. So it's a narrative, not just a string of events that have happened. So you as a business owner kind of have selective information that you pull out, details you arrange that really help people understand who you are. You don't want to leave too much to the imagination. I like to say you want to end your pitch with someone saying, wow, that's really interesting. I'd like to learn more, and want to ask you a question. So storytelling is a very powerful tool for entrepreneurs, whether it's to raise seed or venture round or any funding. We are, as humans, hardwired to love a great story. They inspire us, and the important part for your business, stories get retold. And I have a link here to StoryCorps, which is just an amazing place to check out stories in all different genres. I know, Paul, maybe at the end you want to share a little bit about what you're doing with that as well. So let's take a look at what a funder wants. Now, I'm focusing on the story piece. But yes, funders are going to look at the financials. They are going to want to know some of those operational and management details. But they also want to know this story. Who are you? What is the problem? How is your solution the most effective one? And how is your business going to be sustainable while it creates impact? And I know many of us have this as business owners in our head, but sometimes when we try to say it, it doesn't come out quite the same. And that's why we want to be prepared. Look at some examples. So good story, one you love to tell it, should become part of you. Conflict and resolution, in this case, problem solution. You want to have some substance. You want to involve the audience, create vivid images, and you're always going to adapt your story to match your audience. How you approach a lender in a bank and prepare your story, your passion for them may be a little different than an investor, which may be a little different from, say, someone who's going to be your partner or for a customer. So you have your basis and then you massage it to meet your audience. So ask yourself what problem you solve rather than what you do. So instead of saying I'm a customer service specialist, you might say I communicate with customers to keep them happy throughout their experience. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, is that like saying, sanitation engineer instead of janitor? Okay, semantics. Maybe to some degree, but what people think a customer service specialist does might vary. So part of you providing a little bit more detail helps perhaps shift perception. Someone might have in their head, oh, customer service specialist, you're just answering complaint calls all day. So you want to give them a little bit more about what you actually do. So for example, and I'm sure all of you run into this if you go to networking events and you say, hi, my name is Anya. I run a nonprofit. And folks smile and say, oh, great. And they might say, oh, what kind of nonprofit? But sometimes they'll just be, oh, okay. But they aren't necessarily going to remember you. So what if you rephrased it, and this might be a little long, to I run a nonprofit to create opportunities for underprivileged girls to learn code. It's pretty exciting. That might draw someone into the conversation. And you make it a habit to always think of that one sentence. We're not talking a long paragraph about what do you do? What problem and solution do you have? Problem, underprivileged girls. Solution, they're learning code. Just in a few words. Here's a longer one. So again, I'm Jane Doe. We publish law books. Exciting, right? What else might you ask Jane? You might not know what else to ask her, right? It's like, oh, law books. Okay. What if she, this is a longer one, but what if she said, I'm Jane Doe. We publish books, newsletters, audio programs, and seminars, designed to help lawyers and others manage their careers better. Our best-selling title, How to Make a Partner in 30 Days or Less, was named the book most frequently stolen from law school libraries. So inject a little humor. Again, this is a longer one, but again, imagine how much more she's saying. And you might not have been interested in law books, but maybe you know someone who's a paralegal and you're like, oh, what do you do to help someone's career? So you're giving people a little bit more to massage into your overall business concept. And as you prepare and looking at funders, you want to think about what do they need to know about me to show that this business is unique. And again, we can't see the ZocDoc pitch, but it is here. So when you pull this up on your own, it's a good pitch. And I've included several here that you can listen to separately. But he starts his entire pitch with the story, right? 6 months ago, I was on a flight from Seattle, New York, had a sinus infection. When he landed, the pressure was so bad, his eardrum ruptured. Then began his search for a practitioner to help him. trying to find who he could see that didn't take 6 weeks to get there. And so he kind of draws you in because everybody somewhere has some kind of medical story. It might not have been an eardrum rupturing, but sometime when they were looking for a medical professional and couldn't find it. So now you're listening, you're paying attention. And his story was short, probably less than a minute of his whole pitch. But people don't like the concept of a pitch, like you're selling me something. But if you have me move into your story, kind of on your side a little more. So again, here's just a few more pitches. I encourage you also to look, this is Brian Chesky, Airbnb. And it's actually, he just talks about how they started and that they actually had a credit card notebook of all the credit cards they had run up before they were able to get their first round of funding and how they developed their pitch. So here's a couple that were winners at pitch competitions that do a pretty good job, which I think will help give you kind of a feeling of where you're going. So a couple of steps, and I'm using a nonprofit example here, but it can work for a regular business. So step one is context. You want to zoom in and set the scene for your audience. And this can be anywhere. If you're in a tiny rural town, if you're in a big city, give some context to whoever you're talking to. So in this example, to start, in 2013, Australia had roughly 54,000 applications for refugee status, mostly from war-torn countries. So here's a problem, right? We're setting the scene. This is something that has to be solved. Okay, so now we're going to take it into a little bit more detail. Okay, we see kind of a problem. Here's the context, but this is really where the meat comes to be. We take forever to process their applications, more than 5 years in many cases. So this means 5 years in limbo with nothing meaningful to do and 5 years of vulnerability. So now you're listening, right? You're like, oh, okay, I'm kind of curious as to where they're going to take this. Now, how are we going to solve the issue? And this again ties across any business, whether you're a retail store or a coffee shop. So in our example, well, we are building a rooftop garden where these refugees can volunteer. So how are you going to change the world? How is this impacting our community or our larger community? So here's how they went on. Our rooftop garden will grow more than food. It will grow opportunities. Opportunities for refugees to participate in a familiar activity, grow traditional foods, and the opportunity for meaningful activity in a time period that's very uncertain. So, okay, so you're kind of wrapping up, you see the connection. Even if you're not a rooftop garden fan, you can say, okay, I can see how this could be beneficial. So then you have the ask. And when you're looking for funding, you gotta put the ask in there. And you need to know how much and for what. So we need $15,000 to build a garden. And we've got some awesome perks for those who help us raise funds. So again, if you're talking to an investor, you might be adding how you would pay that back, okay, in a brief way, because obviously that'll be negotiated later. But you need to have a specific ask and how it's going to be used and how whoever is investing with you is going to see some kind of return on that, okay? And I find this is sometimes the hardest part for entrepreneurs. I've had wonderful people who come and say, I think I need like 25,000. And I ask, okay, how would you use those funds? It's like, well, you know, probably about this much for the website. And I might use this much for, you know, equipment. It's like, we need to narrow it down. When you ask for money, you need to be able to build into your story fairly precisely how you'll use it. It's understood that can change. No one's going to lock you into a penny. But you do want to say it's not just operational money at this stage. It may work, it may not. But that you have some very specific goals and ways to measure if those funds have been used appropriately. And if you need to make changes, that you address those. You can also create something like this, kind of a fill in the blank for yourself if you're building your initial, like it's called the 1-minute elevator pitch, something to begin your story when you first shake hands with an investor, okay? I am. What are you? What is it? Who is your target audience? And I really want you to think about that carefully. And this is not a marketing segment. That would be a whole nother couple of hours. But really, I think marketing, your target audience is something that investors and funders really look for. They want to know that you know who is buying your product. And I'll just use a classic example to say how it's easy to get turned around. I don't know if you all remember the Old Spice commercials. Old Spice was reinvigorating their brand a few years ago, did some really fun commercials. But what they found when they started this campaign, and hence the fun commercials, was that even though their product was for men, and you'll say, yeah, my target audience is males age 18 to 35, the people buying the product was the women, the girlfriends and the wives. And so their target audience was men, but they're pitching to the women in a way that did not alienate the guys. So I don't know if you remember those fun commercials. I'll be happy to share one with Paul to post later. So you want to look at, yeah, I have a target audience, but who is actually going to buy my product? Okay, so you want to kind of keep that in mind too. Again, what problem are you solving that's not already out there? One thing I hear the most is, I'm going to do it better. Well, how? I'll have better customer service. Well, how? You have to be able to make even something fairly intangible tangible. The problem I see is that people are having to wait 5 days for a response from X company. We're going to solve that problem by responding to everybody within 24 hours. Something along those lines, okay? What is it that you think your company can do better, and then exactly how will it do it? It can't just be, we'll do it better, okay? And then that can be a component that you use for any marketing or to build your basic pitch or speech if you're talking to the chamber. If you're speaking to a funder, and again, I say investor, funder, I tend to use funder kind of more for banks, investor for investment funding. You want to let them know what you want. You know, I am seeking $15,000 in order to install a new software system that will allow me to implement my 24-hour policy return and give the customer all the information they need. So having a specific, okay? So I've just included a couple more links. This one, That's Suspicious Behavior. It's not the best video, and they actually tell you that they didn't have the best recording at the time, but it's actually a really good pitch where she really pulls you into the story of the problem. And I think they won a pitch competition with that one and got some funding. So just something to check on later on your own. So part of the whole building a story is build relationships. Have the 60-second story ready to be told at any time. What do? Perfect example, there is a woman in our community was skiing, and she's planning to start a business. And her husband ran into a friend of his in the parking lot. And he mentioned, my wife is, thinking about starting this business. We're going to be looking at some investing. The man in the car said, oh, my friend Roger's in the back seat. He's been looking for something to invest in. Why didn't she talk to him? He literally invested in her business because she was ready. She had the pitch, running into this off-the-cuff person who wanted to invest. And we see that quite often. There are folks who have funds, but they're not advertising. They're just looking for special projects that interest them. That's why you need to have this ready at any time, that you can kind of come up and say it with passion, with meaning, not sounding like a sales pitch, but because you believe in your business. And so listen to other people's stories. What do they say? How are they selling? What do you think they do well? Maybe not so well. And again, I just have a couple of sites here because as you're doing this in today's marketplace, one of the first things sometimes folks will do is, if you are in business and seeking funds, is they'll check out your website. So you do want to make sure the personality of your business and your brand is consistent across all your various marketing channels. Even though you're looking for funding, people are going to check you out. And so you want to make sure that you're portrayed the way you want to be in various areas of the web. So slowly start wrapping up here. Once again, keep in mind, set the stage. Clearly define what problem you're solving and why your solution is the most effective. It can't be loose, do it better. How are you going to do it better? Something measurable that you can show has worked. Then you want to look at what is your impact? How is it sustainable? And then the ask, how much and for what? So I've again included these that you can pull off later. These are investors. Again, they're investing in people, not products. I think that's what you have to remember. Do you need to know your product? Absolutely. Do you need to know your numbers? Have projections? Yes. But if they look to you and the way you are discussing your product and don't feel like you have the passion or the understanding of the problem and solution, they might not give you your due even if the numbers look pretty good, because they want to know that there's someone who can really take this business and run. So you're important. These are just a couple of investment sites. Frontier Fund 2 here, using my mouse, you probably can't see that, is in Montana. They do focus primarily on tech ventures. Good Works Ventures is another Montana-based investment company that focuses quite a bit on sustainability, but they do beyond tech, so something to explore. And then just a few other resources. Kiva is actually a loan, kind of social lending. I'll let you take a look at that. And then again, your bank. Again, I do encourage you, if you're looking for funding, your local bank is often a good place to start, because you want to build a relationship with them so that as you grow, they know you, they know your business, they know your story, and might be able to help you more than you think. Even if at the beginning it's frustrating when you're starting out and they have some limitations. And again, these are just some online resources, by no means all inclusive. There's a lot out there. These are ones that at this point in time appear to have a pretty good record, and I know some clients who have used these with good results. Like anything, read the fine print. I just put this up for those of you who do have perhaps nonprofit entities or know of any. Obviously, always look at eligibility. Grants, just like a business, they're looking for the best story. What are you sharing? And most universities have access to the Foundation Center or GrantSpace. These are two membership-based organizations that kind of have a list of all the private foundations. And they are membership-based. They're not free, but as I said, I know MSU has the Foundation Center available. You can only use it in their library, but you can use it for no cost. So if you have a university or college in your community and you are looking as a nonprofit for grants, that's something to explore. But I won't spend a lot of time on that. So right on schedule, 11:30, what I wanted to ask is, first, are there questions? But then also, if anyone would like to share with the group their 60-second story, would you like to pitch us and see what we think?
Great, thanks, Anya. I've just granted microphone or audio permission to all our participants, so feel free to chime in, and hopefully you don't talk over each other, but anyone like to participate in Anya's request?
Yes, and please look at, Jason just added a note as well that several of our economic development organizations around the state also have angel networks and connections. So again, always touch base. You've got Great Falls, we have Big Sky Economic Development, Headwaters Economic Development. And I'm sorry, I don't know all of them. Jason, if you know all of them, you can write them down for us. But yes, always check locally to see what's available. All right, is anyone going to share us their 60-second story? All right, until I see someone speak up and I'll stop talking. Give you a quick example. I had a gentleman, wonderful man. He's an engineer, electrical engineer, and he's also a qualified electrical contractor. And he owns a renewable solar roof systems where they're kind of like the shingles on a roof. And he does welding. And he said, well, when people ask me what I do, I tell them, well, I do this and I do this and I do this. And so they kind of look at him like, are you really good at anything? Because you kind of do everything. But in chatting with him, he was trying to create this dynamic because he actually, as an electrical engineer, designs systems. That's what he loves. And for example, for a manufacturer, he had created a conveyor belt system. And so he designed it. As a contractor, an electrical contractor, he installed it. And part of installing a system required welding. So basically, it was okay. So you're putting together what you can define yourself and say, you know, I'm pretty excited. He's building an umbrella organization. XYZ electrical design. Actually, we can take you through from beginning all the way to the end of your project. We can help you design your project, install it, and handle all components that go with that. In addition, we specialize in renewable energies. So now he's kind of lumped it together, made it interesting without making it sound like he's a jack of all trades and master of none. All right, I see Jason and Beth are typing, so we'll give it a second for their questions. And do, again, feel free to speak up if you'd like to throw something past the team here. I know 30 minutes is a short time.
Anya, I'll just add that your presentation file is posted there in that pod that says Files 16. You can just click on that, and it's just a simple download that you can do. So feel free to download the file that you've just seen in the presentation.
Excellent. Well, like I said, I know our time is short. If, again, you have my information, do feel free to contact me. Even if you just want to brainstorm and bounce some ideas off of how do I kind of put my story together a little bit stronger so I don't just sound like the next guy, I'm happy to serve as a listening ear. Or if you want to, again, send me something, say, how does this sound? Feel free to do so. I know this is quick, but I'm hoping it maybe generated some thought and got you thinking in some new ways. So I greatly appreciate you all being here. And I think Jason is still providing some economic development entities for us. So yeah, my dog is sitting here next to me on my chair, letting me know she's ready to go out for lunch. Oh, nope. No. So Jason's not typing all those in, but I'm also happy to, there are. And if you have a question about where you are, you're not sure who to reach, let me know, and I am happy to look that up and share that with you. So again, thank you so much, everybody, and please send an email or call with questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Anya, thank you so much for the great presentation today. Again, we will be sending out the link of the archive. We do have a listserv. If you have any interest in joining that listserv, feel free to just send me an email, and I'll post my my email address in the question pod in just a second. We also are asking that you fill out an evaluation. I'm going to pull up that evaluation address in just a second here. I do also want to put a plug in for the webinar series next, starting in February, and we are very open to your suggestions on content and presenters. So please let us know if you have any suggestions at all about what we should be presenting on and individuals you think that might be able to present. Anya, any last words or anything else you'd like to say before we call it a day?
Not at all. I just thank everyone for coming and look forward somewhere along the lines to hearing your story.
Wonderful. Thanks again. Again, I'm going to be posting the link in just a second, and look forward to having you participate in our next webinars. Please join the listserv, and we've got information on our small business website that I'll also post the link to from past webinars, the archives, and the resources that have been presented. So with that, I'll say thank you very much. Have a great day, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.